Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Tony Sirianni podcast. I am thrilled to have my friend Shannon Reid, who is now president of Osaic, with us. Thanks for being here, Shannon.
Thanks, Tony. I'm excited for the opportunity.
Well, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I mean, I want to talk all about the industry and where we are. You and I can go on for a long time about that. But just first, what's everyone's thinking? Why Osaic? What was your thinking there?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. I mean, as I think I've told a lot of people, I wasn't looking to leave Raymond James. I think the world of Raymond James as a firm, and have had such a wonderful career there. Lots of
A lot
amazing
of friends, a
advisors
lot
and
of friends
people,
there. Yeah.
tons of friends. Um, and as this opportunity with Osaic came up, I just felt like it was an opportunity to think about the industry a little differently. The way Osaic is structured, particularly in the last 2 years since we've completed this journey to one exercise to bring all of the broker dealers that made up Osaic into one,
Yeah.
we are now operating as one firm. And I think what's unique about Osaic's approach is that it is very much future focused. As one firm, how do we bring the scale and the depth of resources that advisors need in order to meet clients' ever changing and ever growing demands in today's world, while also having a technology platform and an advisor platform that is built for the future, right? So it's flexible. We're multi-custodial, right? We're not self-clearing, which I actually think is important, and it's an important differentiator.
It is.
And
Yeah.
we can really leverage those partners to help us, but also the ability to bring on more tools flexibly, be agile, be nimble. The one thing we know is the world is going to change, and it's going to change faster than we expect. So,
Yeah.
I think Osaic presents a unique opportunity to be more adaptable to that change in the future.
It seems to me like one of the biggest challenges in taking on Osaic and knowing you like I do, that you're all about culture. I mean, you love it. I know you talk to advisors every
Yeah.
day. That's a big part of what you do. So, and I think it's hard to deliver culture at scale. And I think it was difficult when Osaic was sort of a hodgepodge of a bunch of different things. But now that there's an opportunity to do that, I mean, where do you rank that in your challenges,
I mean, it's right up there probably as one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest opportunities. I
Yeah.
think you're right. All of those firms had slightly different cultures. And so now as one firm, how do we take the best of all of them and bring those forward, not just to our advisors, but to their teams, to their clients, to our associates, to make sure we're really bringing the best of Osaic to everyone every single day. And that includes, defining who are we going to be?
Yeah.
Now that we're one firm, who are we going to be? How do we want to serve advisors? How do we want to help advisors serve their clients, which is really what we're all here for, right? It is ultimately about helping people. And I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting, and I do think that you know all firms struggle with delivering cultural and cultural cues. I have a feeling you're going to be pretty good at it, but um, in the larger industry, you and I talked a lot about what some of the challenges are. Nobody that you talk to or any of the folks at Osaic talk to look at the firm comes to you without having heard about equity, right? There's that's sort of on
Yeah.
everybody's mind, and I know you know a lot about it, right? So you're intimate with these discussions, but everybody has different views, different opinions, different levels of understanding of where it is.
Hmm.
There's always, equity versus enterprise value, sort of, two different things. So
Right.
what are you hearing and what from your point of view is the Osaic, you know, delivery on equity or
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it was in your predictions or your top 10 list for 2026, right? Equity is an important topic. It's coming up in every discussion with advisors, whether it is in the discussion about who's their best possible partner and how does equity play a part in that, but also as you're thinking about succession planning, the valuation of their business, taking some um, risk off the table, particularly for advisors looking for that next step. So all of those things are really important, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Not all equity is created equal, right?
yeah,
Not
and there's there's this becoming and this separation of there's good guys and bad guys, right? There are villains in the space, and they're what used to be, hey, this is easy, let's just beat up the wirehouses, right? But now the wirehouses have retreated into their strengths. They do what they do well, and if that's for you, you
Right.
want a friend, get a dog. That's the culture. But if you're outside of that, there's a lot of promises built around this equity stuff, and not all of it's real or deliverable. And guys don't understand, well, what's a waterfall? Where do I stand? You know all that stuff, but
Yeah, we talked about it. I mean, I think that's a really important thing for advisors, particularly when advisors are evaluating a deal that includes equity.
yes.
They need to make sure they're asking the right questions. To your point, some of it is really high quality and some of it is not. And so, they should understand one, what drives the value of equity. They should understand the balance sheet of the firm. They should, ask for something called a cap table. When I talk to most financial advisors about equity, and I will ask the question, where do you land on the cap table, which is the order in which people get paid
Yeah.
when there is a liquidity event. Most of them have never heard the term. And so I think it's really important to make sure advisors are educating themselves about one, how does the equity deliver for them? And is it real? Like how easy, how simple is it to understand? It's not super simple in a lot of cases, but it is not, these most financial advisors have the ability to understand complicated financial terms. So they should take the time to understand it and to know what happens in which situations, right? Does the
You can have
equity
a
give
firm,
them more control or less control? All of those things are important.
and I don't think that always relative values come into the discussion either. So you can have a $10 billion firm that makes $75,000 a year. It's not worth anything.
Right,
No matter how you do it,
right,
it
right.
has billions of dollars. Oh, it looks great, but it doesn't make any money. So equity's not worth anything.
Equity's not worth anything and they're unlikely to get, they may get a multiple, right? Like the multiples
Yeah,
in
sure.
some cases today are a little confusing, what the multiples are being paid. But the risk isn't so much today. I mean, unless you have a deal that is like imminent and it's going to impact you today or in the next couple of months, things could change and they will change, right? As the market, if we have a market downturn, how does that impact the equity? How does that impact the firm? What is the strength of the firm and who are the partners behind it? Osaic is really spending a lot of time trying to think about this equity equation. We understand that it's important to advisors. I mean, it's important to us. We want advisors to feel like they have ownership in the firm and that we're in this together,
Yeah.
which we are. Like, I mean, the whole point of Osaic exists to support advisors and advisors exist to support clients. So
Yeah.
we
Well,
should be the closest possible partners and making sure that the equity reflects that. We understand it is the advisor that controls the client relationship. It is the advisor that knows what the client needs, and we're here to deliver it. So we don't want to get into an equity situation where it's Osaic running the business, even though we are acquiring practices just like many other firms. We're acquiring them with a sense of independence remaining and
yeah.
the value between the advisor and the client remaining kind of at the
That's
forefront
the
of that
value.
relationship.
Because the advisor are the ones bringing the value. The clients
That's
didn't
right.
sign up to do Osaic. They signed up because they like the clients, right? So, and the devil's in the details with all that stuff, as
It is
you know. But you're lucky because you have an actual balance sheet, an actual,
a good one.
an actual P&L, right? And sort of the enterprise value is the thing that really advisors should be concerned about, right? So it's, hey, yeah, we'll pay you to come over. We'll pay you to help grow your business, and we'll take care of you when you're ready to retire. That's why we have a balance sheet.
That's right. I mean, I think, we talk about sort of being able to help advisors across the whole life cycle, right? In independence. Now, how do you bring new advisors into the business? In an independent model, that looks a little different. We all know how our wirehouse partners do it, but it's a little different in the independent space. But how do you take that next step? Maybe some people want to go from hybrid to full RIA. Maybe they want to sell their practice and hand off some of that control. Like we have a partnership with CW Advisors where you can really sell your practice to them and they will take more of the administrative burden. They'll do more around um, the investment management, whatever you really need. They're sort of at the far end of the full service scale. And then in our W2 channel, which is called Empowered Independence, it's called that for a reason. And it is because it is about helping advisors capture and will consider minority stakes. We have profit sharing arrangements, and we have full acquisitions.
That's yeah.
It is about helping independent advisors sort of remain independent while being able to capitalize on the biggest asset most of them have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key. I think a lot of these, so-called equity, buyers, these different capital firms have come in and been surprised that they bought a baseball team, not a football team. These people are very independent. They're going to do what
They are very
they're gonna do what
independent.
they
Yeah,
want. So that's all.
very independent. And I think most of them don't want to give up control, right? They fought really hard to gain it and
Right.
to build a business, and they want to see that continue. And the clients like the experience, right? The clients aren't looking for another experience. They're looking to maintain a relationship with the people that they know.
Yeah,
And,
they probably even left with them from one firm to another. I mean, we know that
correct.
good advisors keep their clients, and you and I have a nice advisor has nice clients. If you're a jerk, you have jerks as
Right,
clients. So
right,
why would
right.
you want to interrupt that
Yeah.
cycle?
I mean, this business to me is actually really simple, right? It is all about people helping people. How we do that can be complicated, right? I mean, the tools that financial advisors use to understand and support client needs, those can be complicated, which is why people need financial advisors. Even in a world of AI where a lot of stuff can be done for you, I think that human touch, that human connection is just not going to go away. In fact, I think it'll become more and more important.
That's Yeah,
Um,
you're actually segueing into my next question, which of course was going to be around AI. My
of
next
course, you can't have a conversation without talking about
No,
AI.
no,
And
no. Well, not with the president of the company. You want
yeah,
to,
true.
what does she think? So, but at the end of the day, Ron Kraszewski actually wrote a good piece about, AI and markets. That markets aren't chessboards, which have a finite number of moves and players and all that, right? There's emotions, there's regulation, there's, individual actors. There's, I need to sell now because I have a sick child or whatever it might be. There's just
Right.
a lot of human stuff that goes into markets and moving markets, and AI at the end of the day gives you the consensus. It's like a lemmings kind of opinion. There's nothing new, there. So I guess I'd like to know what you guys are thinking about it. I know I have a couple thoughts, which you know as well around it. But where do you see AI impacting? I'm sure it's having an efficiency impact on your guys today. But kind of how are you guys in that water right now?
Yeah, I think it's really got three. And there's the direct impact sort of to the advisor, and then I think there's the impact to the firm. And both of them are important and they need to kind of work hand in hand. So for Osaic, we're certainly thinking about how does AI help us serve our advisors better? Like how do we give better answers when we respond to advisor or client questions? How do we make sure we're removing as many errors from the process as we possibly can? Frankly, how do we enhance cybersecurity? That is something when you ask a lot of particularly independent advisors and independent business owners, what keeps them up at night, it's the cybersecurity
Yeah.
issues and fraud and AI. I mean, it is going to fraud in particular, which has been scary, and I think the acceleration of fraud attempts given AI is going to become the battle of AI against AI, right? Like we're going to deploy AI against it, and the bad actors are going to deploy it to try to steal more.
Yeah, yeah.
So you still have to have, that just further reinforces the importance of a human in the mix, right? Who can say, that behavior doesn't make sense for Shannon, or that behavior doesn't make sense for Tony. Like, how? Let me ask some more questions. But then, it also can help us be better supervisors, right? So there's less humans having to touch things, but those interactions are even deeper.
Yeah.
So it's more, we can bring better solutions if we're doing less, administrative work. That
There's
same applies for advisors, right? AI today is already removing an enormous amount of administrative burden from advisors. And I think that will just continue as it goes into more aspects of what advisors do to help them be more effective.
Well, you think with the efficiencies created, in my mind, they're going to become, more hands-on with advisors because they have more time
I
to
think
do.
that's right. I think that's right. And I think it allows us to know each other better,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about how to fill out this form or that form, or a specific transaction, or even AI can do an enormous amount of help in sort of researching alternatives for clients and and putting together notes and details that are really important, obviously from the regulatory lens. So if we
Yeah,
don't have to worry about all of that, then actually we could spend more time together talking about what, coming back to that initial topic, right? How do you grow your business? How do you serve your clients more? How do we add value to your business? And what are the solutions that Osaic has that you're not even offering to clients yet? Most advisors aren't sitting around with a ton of time. I mean, some are playing more golf, but they're usually playing with clients. So that's a
yep.
good thing. But if they're in the office, they're busy. And so, how do we bring solutions to them much more proactively so they can solve more client problems and be a better resource?
Yeah, you can see where AI, is creating those efficiencies and helping advisors today. A lot of the other stuff is aspirational. AI is not there yet, for a lot of the
Right.
stuff that I know you're thinking about and everyone else is thinking about. I also worry a lot about regulation, and you're now in a position where you gotta, if I'm Elizabeth Warren, I'm sitting on a board, I could say, okay, you didn't use AI on this 401k, so why,
Right.
you don't deserve a commission. Or conversely, you did use AI, so why do you deserve a commission? You could be on both
Yeah.
sides of the same thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just we don't know where it's going to go. And my head goes to the texting nonsense that happened with us, where people were texting for 10 years. Like we should have known this was client communication, but maybe a little guidance would have helped. You know,
Yeah,
from
that one came out of nowhere. And, I mean, that started more on the other side of the business, right? I mean, it really started on the investment banking side of the business where I think perhaps there were more concerns. I think in general, while obviously we were not monitoring, every firm out there was not doing what it should to have monitored, those off-platform communications. I also think that most firms, it's largely just setting up meetings with clients and helping clients, do business. It's
of
not
course.
insider information or,
No,
or
no, no, no,
major
no.
issues.
It's very hard
But
on our end of the business to separate. These are good friends. I mean, they're going away to each other's
correct.
weekend houses,
Right.
too, and it's just hard. It's very difficult to separate that stuff out. But I do just worry, about firms to having some thought towards where this is going to go from a regulatory perspective to keep on it, which is another reason to have some scale and be with a firm like an
Right.
Osaic. I'm on my own, and I don't have time to think about these things.
I think that's a really important point, Tony. I mean, it is, there's no question at some point the regulators are going to look, first of all, the regulators are going to deploy AI as well, right? To evaluate more data and look into firms more clearly. So their questions will get more pointed and more specific. The more AI can help us and help advisors document all they are doing for clients, even if that is using AI to make a decision, the advisor still makes the decision, right? Like ultimately it is the advisor who has to decide, is this the right product for my client based on his or her needs, their financial plan, their long-term perspective, and obviously their risk profile. So I don't think that stuff is ever going to change. It'll just make the decisions better. And frankly, it will allow us to document them a lot better. That has been a big problem in the industry, I think, for a long time, is just the amount of time and documentation that regulators want us to have, but advisors, there's only so many hours in the day. Like, how do you serve clients
I
and
also think
document everything they would want?
I think the more that advisors are documented, the better they'll look because most advisors are doing the right thing
100%.
all the time, right? So
Agreed.
the other thing I think that AI will do, and we got to kind of get going with this too. I think AI is going to drive alternative usage because AI is in the private market. I mean, also is a private marketplace, and AI can't look there. So if AI becomes this thing that can really, maybe make recommendations, advisors will still have an edge in terms of private market stuff. So where are you set up? Or where are you guys thinking in terms of alternatives, which are becoming more and more obviously popular?
Well, I mean, we're always evaluating, our alternative investment platform and trying to make sure it's as competitive as it can be. Like we still want to do due diligence, and so we don't have just a fully open platform like is available. I mean, advisors could go to a fully open platform, right, and see every alternative that's out there. But I think one of the things that we believe is valuable for Mosaic is that we bring a perspective and maybe a sense of leadership around these are the best products. Excuse me. We bring a sense of leadership around these are the best products that are available to you to use today based on the research and due diligence that we do. So, privates is a great example. Really, really growing. It can
Yeah.
be very confusing. Does it have the right liquidity for clients? Do clients understand if it doesn't, which, some certainly do not. and how do they deploy it the right way? I think you're right. People will be looking for something to give them that edge, that little bit of differentiation from just, I mean, look, if you wanted to just perform okay, right, you could just invest in an index
Yeah.
today. And that's okay, but it isn't going to, you're going to take the rises and you're going to take the falls. Luckily, we've had mostly rises over the last couple of years, several years, but eventually it will come down. And it is that relationship with the advisor and that discipline that the advisor brings to the relationship with their clients that I think is really, really important. And to your point, those other products that are maybe non-correlated, like that don't rise and fall in the same way, so that clients are more protected.
Great. This is the last question. Believe me, we're surprisingly running out of time already.
It's amazing.
Now that you're there, you must be looking forward not just to what you're going to do, but where you see the firm. Where do you see the firm, the industry, yourself 5 years from now, with all these things that are going on that we just talked about?
Yeah. I mean, I think the future is very bright at Osaic. I wouldn't have come here. And I think I mentioned it at the front of this discussion about, how we've built the platform to be sort of more agile and nimble. I think we're seeing a huge period of consolidation, right? Particularly in the RIA space. We saw it kind of in the broker dealer space several years ago. Now we're seeing it in the RIA space. So I think Osaic will be a little bigger. I don't think we'll be the biggest. I don't think we seek to be the biggest. I think we want to make sure we are partnering with very high quality advisors who are doing the right things for clients and who are looking for a firm to bring scale and a wide array of resources to their clients, but also looking for that flexibility. I think Osaic will do a really good job attracting those next generation. We're already talking. We have a council of advisors that's our next generation advisors, and talking to them about where do you guys think the industry is going. They're the ones that are going to be in it 10 years from now. Some of us may not be. And so, how do we make sure we're creating the flexibility and the adaptability that they will need?
Yeah.
I can't tell you what the industry is going to look like. I wish I knew. If I knew, you know, I may not be sitting right here. That's where we would all be, Tony, right? But although I love what I do, so I probably would be sitting right here. I think there's a lot of opportunity ahead of all of us. And Osaic is a big firm. It's a big firm for a reason, and you mentioned it: the need for scale, the need for a balance sheet, the need for a robust support infrastructure to help advisors compete is all really, really important. But we will be getting more and more personalized and understanding the needs of our individual businesses and how do we help them deliver on that.
Great. Well, that's a high note. So we'll end on a high note. It's great seeing you again, as always, Shannon,
You
and
too.
we can do this again. We'll talk again soon.
It's
Thanks.
great. Thanks, Tony.